There are moments in life when the weight of the world seems to settle on our shoulders, when the burdens of daily life grow too heavy, when the storms of trouble and pain come crashing in, and we find ourselves standing on the edge of despair. You know, friends, there are times when the way forward is unclear, when the path seems hidden behind a veil of darkness. It is in these moments that we often feel alone, isolated, and vulnerable. Like David standing alone before the giant. The world may tell you that you must fight your battles on your own, that you must rely on your own strength and wisdom, but I stand before you today to share something that is more powerful than any weapon the world can offer. It is the belief that there is someone greater, someone who sees and understands your battles, someone who knows every challenge you face. Life isn't always easy, is it? We live in a world where it feels as though there are forces beyond our control pulling us in every direction. You might be facing a family crisis that seems insurmountable, a health issue that keeps you up at night, a financial struggle that feels like an unending uphill climb, or a relationship that is crumbling despite your best efforts. You might be battling the weight of regret, the pain of loss, or the fear of what tomorrow might bring. And in these moments, there's a voice that whispers to your heart, give up, let go, it's too much for you to handle. It can feel like the battle is too great, the struggle too long, the odds too high. But my friends, let me share with you a truth that is more powerful than any circumstance you might face. There is a promise that you can hold on to, a promise that the battle does not belong to you. It is a promise that there is a force greater than any adversary, stronger than any difficulty, and more capable than any circumstance you might face. This is not about what you can do, but about what can be done for you on your behalf. The key to finding peace in the midst of the storm is surrender, surrendering the weight of your battles, and allowing the power of the one who has fought the greatest battle of all to stand beside you. I want to remind you today that there is someone who fights for you. It is not about your ability, your strength, or your intellect. It is about the understanding that there is a higher power, an eternal force, whose hands are far more capable than yours. This is not some vague, abstract idea. This is a truth that has been revealed through centuries of struggle, through the lives of those who have gone before us and experienced victory, not through their own power, but through something much greater. There is nothing that is too big for that power. There is no enemy too strong, no obstacle too high, and no situation too dire that it cannot be overcome. Consider the great warrior who stood on the battlefield, not with sword and shield, but with a heart full of courage and a spirit full of faith. He understood deeply that the battle was never his to win alone. He knew that his strength, his resolve, and his victory were not born of his own will, but from a force beyond himself. And my friends, that same force is available to you today. It is not about your skill, your wisdom, or your ability to control every circumstance. It is about understanding that the true victory is found in trusting that the battle can be fought for you and that in the end it is won. Many of us try to control our battles, don't we? We try to fix everything ourselves, thinking that if we just work a little harder, struggle a little longer, that somehow we'll emerge victorious. And yet, how often do we find that our efforts fall short? How many times have we worked and worked, only to see no progress, no resolution, no change? We find ourselves tired, weary, worn out from the effort. And in those moments of exhaustion, the question arises, is there another way? Is there something else I can do? And that's where the answer lies, friends. The answer is not in working harder or relying on your own strength. The answer lies in letting go. It lies in saying, I can't do this on my own, and I'm not meant to. It lies in surrendering the battle not to a force of your own making, but to something much greater than yourself. The truth is, the greatest battles in life are never won by our own hands. They are won by the strength that is given to us when we let go of our own limited abilities and place our trust in something more powerful than ourselves. This truth is not new. It is a message that has been passed down through generations, whispered in the ears of those who have faced their own giants, their own storms. It is a message that transcends time and place, because it is a message of hope. When we face challenges, when we are confronted with difficulties that seem insurmountable, the call is not to fight harder, but to trust that the fight is not ours. It is to recognize that we do not stand alone in the battle. There is someone who stands with us, who fights for us, and who will bring us through. You see, in life we cannot avoid the battles. They come in all shapes and sizes. Personal battles, professional battles, spiritual battles, and emotional battles. And in each of these battles, there comes a moment when we have to choose. We can either continue to fight on our own, or we can choose to surrender our fight to the one who has already won the greatest battle of all. The struggle may seem daunting, the enemy may seem strong, but remember, the true victory does not lie in our own strength. It lies in the recognition that there is a force far greater, and that through surrender, we can experience peace and victory. Consider the story of a man who faced incredible odds, someone who had his fair share of struggles, his own battles to fight. He was no stranger to pain, no stranger to hardship, but he came to understand something that changed his life forever. He understood that there was someone greater, someone whose strength could carry him through the toughest of times. And in his darkest moments, when all seemed lost, he learned to trust in that greater power. It was not his own strength that brought him through the battle, but his willingness to release control and place his trust in the one who had fought for him long before he ever knew the battle would come. And that same power, my friends, is available to you today. You are not alone in your struggles. You do not have to face the giants of this world in your own strength. There is a promise that has been given to you, and that promise is one of victory, peace, and hope. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but how can I surrender? How can I let go when everything seems so out of control? Friends, the answer lies in faith. It lies in trusting that there is a higher plan, a divine purpose, even in the midst of suffering and difficulty. The battle is not yours to fight alone. You are not meant to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Instead, you are invited to surrender, to place your trust in a power that is greater, a power that will fight for you, a power that has never lost a battle. I know that in the midst of your battles, it can be difficult to see beyond the immediate struggles. The pain may be too great, the obstacles too high, the road too long. But let me tell you today, there is a way through. There is a way to find peace in the midst of the storm, a way to experience victory even before the battle has ended. It is the peace that comes from trusting in something greater than yourself. It is the peace that comes from knowing that the one who fights for you is always with you, always by your side, always working on your behalf. The key is not in how hard you fight, but in how deeply you trust. When you trust in the strength of the one who is greater than any foe, you find the courage to face the battles ahead. And as you face them, you will begin to see that the battle was never yours to fight in the first place. The victory is already won, and the peace is already yours. Let go of your worry, friends. Let go of the fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty. Trust in the power that is greater than anything you face. Surrender your battles and allow that power to fight for you. The victory is already yours. The battle has already been won. It's easy in those moments to feel as though you're carrying a burden that no one else can understand. We often tell ourselves that we should be stronger, that we should handle these battles better, that we should be able to carry these heavy weights on our own. But there's a truth we must face, and it's a truth that we don't always want to admit. We are not meant to carry these burdens alone. We live in a world that places value on self-reliance. We are told from a young age that we should be able to stand on our own 2 feet, that we should pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and push through whatever difficulties come our way. And while there is certainly value in hard work and perseverance, there is a limit to what we can carry on our own. We were never meant to handle all of life's struggles by our own strength. And when we try to do so, we often end up feeling broken, defeated, and exhausted. Perhaps you've been there, standing in the middle of a storm and feeling like the winds are howling louder than your own thoughts. You may have found yourself wondering, how much longer can I keep going? How much longer can I bear this pain? How much longer can I fight this fight alone? In those moments, the temptation is to just give up. But that's not the solution, friends. Giving up is not the answer. The answer, the key to finding peace and victory in the midst of the struggle, is found in surrender. Surrendering may seem like a foreign concept. In a world that emphasizes strength, independence, and self-sufficiency, the idea of surrender can feel like weakness. But I want to challenge that thinking today. Surrender is not weakness. It's the most powerful thing you can do. Surrender means acknowledging that you cannot fight every battle by yourself, and that you don't have to. It means turning your eyes away from your own ability to fight and looking toward a higher power, a greater strength that can carry you through. Imagine just for a moment the feeling of releasing the burden. Imagine standing at the edge of your struggle and saying, I can't do this on my own, but I don't have to. The battle is not yours to fight alone. In that moment of surrender, when you release the weight of your worries, your fears, your frustrations, there's a peace that floods your heart, a peace that goes beyond understanding. The storm may still rage around you, but you will find peace within. There's a beautiful truth that we need to remember in times of difficulty. The burden is not meant to be carried by you alone. You do not have to face the giants of this world by yourself. You do not have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. There is a strength greater than your own, a power that is beyond anything the world can offer, and it is ready to fight for you. Think for a moment about the battles that you've faced in your life, those battles that seemed impossible, the times when you thought there was no way out, and yet somehow you made it through. Somehow you are here today, and perhaps in those moments, when you reflect on how you survived, you realize that it wasn't just your strength that got you through. There was something else at work, something greater than your own will to survive. There are moments in life when we are called to lay down our own weapons, to stop fighting with the strength of our own hands, and to trust that there is someone who has already fought the greatest battle for us. Friends, this is not about giving up. This is not about surrendering to despair or helplessness. It's about recognizing that there is someone who has already fought for you, who has already won the victory, and who will carry you through. The Bible tells us that there is a power that is stronger than the fiercest storm, greater than the deepest pain, more enduring than any trial we face. But this truth is not just about some historical event or some distant promise. It is a living, breathing reality that you can experience in your own life today. When you come to the point where you are at your wit's end, when you feel like you've done all you can do and you just can't go any further, that is the moment when you can let go, stop trying to control everything, and trust that there is a power beyond your understanding that is fighting for you. We are not alone in this world, and we don't have to face the battles of life by our own strength. There is a peace that comes when we let go of our need to control and fight every battle ourselves. It is the peace of knowing that the fight is not ours to win alone, and that someone has already won it for us. When we acknowledge this, when we surrender our battles, we open ourselves up to receive the peace, the strength, and the victory that is waiting for us. So in this moment, I invite you to take a step of faith, to trust that the battle does not belong to you, but to a power greater than anything you can imagine. You don't have to carry that burden any longer. You don't have to struggle through this fight alone. There is help. There is hope. There is victory waiting for you when you choose to let go and trust that the fight is already won. Friends, it's not about what you can do on your own. It's not about how hard you can fight, how long you can endure, or how much pain you can bear. It's about recognizing that there is a force beyond yourself, a power greater than anything you can imagine, and that force is fighting for you. You may not see it at first. You may not understand how or why it works. But trust me, when you open your heart to the possibility that there is someone fighting on your behalf, you begin to see your battles in a whole new light. Think about the battles you've faced, those moments of intense struggle when you felt like giving up. Perhaps you've had a battle with illness, or maybe you faced financial ruin. Maybe it was a struggle within your family or with your own inner demons of fear and doubt. And in those moments, there's a temptation to rely solely on your own strength. You feel as though the fight is yours alone to bear. But my friends, I am here to tell you that you do not have to fight these battles by yourself. There is a truth that once we embrace it, changes everything. The battle does not belong to you. There's someone greater than you who is willing to fight on your behalf. This higher power has never lost a battle. This force has been at work throughout the ages, fighting for those who were weary, those who were weak, those who were afraid. It's not about your strength, it's about trusting that someone else is fighting for you, that you are never alone in the battle. Let's go back for a moment and reflect on the words of some of the greatest warriors and leaders throughout history. They did not face their struggles alone. They understood that their strength was not their own. They knew that they could not win on their own merit, their own wisdom, or their own power. And so they learned to surrender. They learned to place their trust in a power greater than themselves. They learned that in surrender, they found true strength. Take, for example, the story of David, a young shepherd boy who faced the giant Goliath. Now, David was not a seasoned warrior. He didn't have the armor or the weapons of the king's army. In fact, he was just a boy with a sling and a handful of stones. But when he faced Goliath, he didn't rely on his own ability to fight. He didn't look at the giant before him and say, "I can do this on my own." No, David understood something profoundly important. He knew that his strength wasn't what would win the battle. It wasn't his skill with a sling or his courage in the face of danger. His victory would come from something much greater than himself. David said to Goliath, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel." David didn't see himself as the one doing the fighting. He knew that he was simply a vessel, an instrument, used by something far greater than himself. The power that fought for him was not his own. It was a power that had already fought and won battles for his people for generations. And that is why, despite the overwhelming odds, David prevailed, not because of his strength, but because he trusted in the power of something greater than himself. Now let's reflect on that for a moment. What would happen if, like David, we began to approach our own battles with the same mindset? What would happen if, instead of relying solely on our own abilities, we began to trust in the strength of something greater? What if we allowed ourselves to surrender the fight and place our trust in the power that has never been defeated? Friends, that is where victory is found. When we let go of our need to control every situation, when we stop fighting with our own limited abilities and recognize that there is a power at work beyond our comprehension, we open the door to a new kind of strength. It is a strength that doesn't come from our own efforts, but from the trust we place in the one who fights for us. The battle does not belong to you, and it never did. It may feel as though you are in the midst of the storm, that the winds are howling and the waves are crashing around you, but know this: you are not alone. There is a strength that is with you, beside you, fighting for you, and that strength will never fail. Think about the countless examples throughout history and in your own life where, in the face of seemingly impossible odds, victory was won not by might or power, but by faith. faith in something greater than yourself, faith in the promise that the battle is not yours to fight alone. You see, faith is not a passive thing. It's not just about wishing for things to get better. Faith is an active trust in the strength of a higher power, a power that has proven time and again that it is stronger than any enemy, greater than any challenge. This faith, this trust in the greater power that fights for you, is what allows you to stand firm in the face of adversity. It is what gives you the courage to continue when everything seems to be falling apart. It's what allows you to find peace even in the storm. But faith is not just about believing that someone is fighting for you. It's about surrendering the fight to that greater power. It's about saying, I can't do this alone. I need help. And I trust that the help I need is already here, ready to fight on my behalf. It's a humbling experience, but one that brings true peace. For when we surrender, we allow ourselves to be empowered by a strength that is limitless, a strength that does not waver, does not tire, and does not fail. And so, in the moments when life feels too overwhelming, when the weight of the world feels unbearable, I invite you to remember this truth. You are not alone. There is someone greater who is fighting for you. Trust that the battle is not yours to fight alone. And when you let go and trust in that higher power, you will experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. A peace that allows you to stand firm no matter what comes your way. In every struggle we face, whether it's in our relationships, our careers, our health, or our spiritual lives, we are often confronted with the desire to control the outcome. We find ourselves holding on tightly, trying to dictate the direction of our lives, thinking that if we just try harder, work longer, or push more forcefully, we will make things go our way. But friends, the truth is that when we try to control everything, we often miss the deeper truth. The victory is not in our hands to achieve. You see, there's a great paradox in life. The more we try to hold on to control, the more we end up in a state of frustration. The tighter we grip the reins, the more we become aware of how little we can actually control. We can't control the people around us. We can't control the weather, the economy, or even the course of our health. The reality is, so many things in life are beyond our reach. But here's the good news. When we stop trying to control everything and instead surrender that control, we find a peace that cannot be found in striving. This is where the beauty of surrender comes in. It's not a surrender of weakness, but a surrender of trust. It's a trust that the fight is not ours to win alone. It's a trust that someone greater is at work in our lives. Surrender doesn't mean giving up or being passive. Surrender means letting go of the illusion that we have to do everything ourselves, that we have to have all the answers, that we have to carry every burden on our own. Think for a moment about the way a child trusts a parent. When a child is afraid, unsure, or anxious, they don't try to figure everything out for themselves. They run to their parents, and in their embrace, they find comfort. The child surrenders their worry and fear to the parent, knowing that the parent will take care of them, will guide them, and will make sure they are safe. Now, I know that you may not always feel like that child grown up with responsibilities, facing adult challenges, but I want to remind you that deep down you are still a child in need of comfort. You are still someone who can surrender your fears and struggles, trusting that there is someone who is more than capable of carrying the load. We don't have to figure it all out ourselves, friends. In fact, the more we try, the more we wear ourselves out. There is a power, a strength, a wisdom greater than our own, and that is the strength we can trust to fight our battles for us. The promise is not that we will never face difficulty or that life will always be smooth. The promise is that when we trust in something greater than ourselves, we will find a strength that carries us through even the darkest moments. The promise is that when we let go of our need to control and instead place our trust in that higher power, We will find peace even in the midst of the storm. Consider for a moment the story of a man who faced one of the greatest challenges of his life. His name was Moses. He was a man called to lead a people out of slavery, a daunting task that seemed impossible. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a great leader in the eyes of the world. In fact, Moses felt ill-equipped for the task ahead. But there was one thing that made all the difference. Moses trusted in the power that was greater than his own. When faced with an impossible situation, Moses didn't rely on his own strength or wisdom. He surrendered the situation to the higher power that called him. He followed the guidance that was given to him, not because he had all the answers, but because he trusted that the one who called him would provide. Moses didn't have to fight every battle on his own. In fact, many times the victory came not from Moses' own hands, but from the guidance, strength, and power that came from trusting in something greater than himself. The parting of the Red Sea didn't happen because Moses had the ability to do it himself. It happened because he trusted in the guidance and power that led him forward. When we surrender the need to control every situation and trust in a higher power, we open ourselves up to the possibility of miracles, of things happening that are far beyond what we could ever do on our own. The same is true in your life, friends. The battles you face may seem too great, too difficult, too overwhelming, but I want to remind you, victory is not won by your own strength. It is not won by how hard you fight or how well you control the circumstances. It is won by surrender. When you let go of the need to control, when you place your trust in the one who is greater, you begin to experience peace in the midst of the struggle. You begin to see that there is strength beyond your own. And through that strength, you will find that the battle is already won. There is a peace that comes with surrender. It's not a peace that comes from the absence of struggle, but a peace that comes from knowing that you don't have to fight alone. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. When you trust in something greater, you open yourself up to a strength that is not your own. You begin to understand that the victory is not in how hard you can fight, but in how deeply you can trust. When you surrender the battle, you receive the peace that passes all understanding. It's easy in times of difficulty to feel as though the battle is yours and yours alone. You look around at the obstacles, at the things that seem impossible to overcome, and you wonder, how can I ever get through this? How can I possibly win this fight? And in those moments, it's easy to fall into a mindset of fear and doubt. You feel alone. You feel like you're fighting with all you've got, but you're not getting anywhere. But here's the truth that can change everything. The battle is not yours to fight alone. There's a profound spiritual truth that we must hold on to during our trials. God is fighting on our behalf. Now, I know some of you may struggle with the idea of surrendering control, especially in a world that emphasizes independence and self-reliance. But hear me today, when you stop fighting with your own strength, when you stop trying to do it all by yourself, you begin to open the door to something greater than yourself. You begin to tap into a divine strength that is beyond anything you could ever muster on your own. You see, the battle is not yours because you were never meant to fight it alone. The victory is not won by your own ability to endure, but by trusting that a higher power is fighting for you. You are not the only one on the front lines. There is a force that is at work, working behind the scenes, doing what you cannot do, and this force, this divine power, is not subject to the same limitations that we are. It is not bound by time, by space, or by circumstance. This divine strength is limitless, eternal, and unchanging. And when you trust in it, when you lean into it, you find that it will carry you through even the most difficult of circumstances. Throughout history, there are countless stories of individuals who faced insurmountable odds, who stood in the face of seemingly impossible battles, and yet they triumphed, not by their own strength, but by the strength of a higher power that fought for them. One such example comes from the Bible, in the story of the Israelites as they faced the mighty Egyptian army. The Israelites had been enslaved for generations, and now, standing at the edge of the Red Sea, they were confronted with an army chasing after them with nowhere to go. They were terrified, feeling trapped, with no way out. But here's the incredible part of that story. God didn't tell them to take up arms and fight the Egyptians themselves. He didn't tell them to figure out a way to defeat Pharaoh's army on their own. No, God told them to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. He said, the battle is not yours, but mine. And when the Israelites trusted in that, when they stopped trying to fight on their own and allowed God to fight for them, the sea parted and they walked through on dry land. The victory came not through their own strength, but through their faith in the one who had already won the battle for them. In this same way, friends, you may find yourself standing at your own Red Sea, looking at obstacles that seem too great to overcome. You may feel trapped, with no way out, facing challenges that you don't know how to handle, and in those moments, God is telling you the same thing He told the Israelites. The battle is not yours, but mine. This doesn't mean that you won't have to face the battle. It simply means that you are not alone in it. You don't have to fight this fight with your own strength. You don't have to carry the weight of it all by yourself. When you trust in the one who is greater than you, you open yourself up to a strength and a power that will carry you through. Think about the countless battles you've fought in your life. The moments when you thought, there's no way I'm going to make it through this. Perhaps it was a personal struggle, a crisis of faith, or an overwhelming challenge in your family or career. And yet, somehow, here you are today. The fact that you made it through is a testament to the truth that you were not fighting alone. Even when you couldn't see it, there was a higher power working on your behalf, guiding you, strengthening you, and bringing you through to the other side. It's so important to remember this. God does not fight battles like we do. Our battles are often fought with anger, frustration, and fear, but God fights battles with wisdom, with love, and with grace. When we trust in Him to fight our battles, we are allowing Him to work in ways that we cannot understand. And we are placing our faith in the fact that He will win the victory in ways that we may never be able to imagine. Think of the story of Joshua, a man who had been called to lead the Israelites into the promised land. They were up against powerful enemies, armies that seemed too strong to defeat. But God told Joshua that the battle would not be won by military might or by strategy. No, God told him to march around the city of Jericho 7 times, to blow trumpets and shout. It was a strange command, one that might have seemed foolish to anyone looking on, but Joshua understood that it wasn't about the physical effort. It was about trusting in the power of God to do what they could not do. And when they obeyed, when they surrendered the battle to God, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. The victory was not theirs to win by their own strength, but it was theirs because they trusted that the one who fights for us would bring the victory. This is the kind of faith that we need to have. This is the kind of trust that will carry us through even the hardest of times. We must come to a place where we stop relying solely on our own abilities and start trusting in the fact that the battle is already won, that God is already working on our behalf, and that we don't have to fight alone. The outcome is already determined, and that is what gives us the courage to move forward, no matter how daunting the challenge may seem. In the moments when you are faced with your own battles, when the odds seem impossible and the weight too much to bear, remember this truth: the victory is already assured. You are not alone. The one who fights for you has already won the ultimate battle, and He is fighting on your behalf. Trust in that, lean on that, and find peace in the fact that the battle is not yours to win, but His. It's easy to lose sight of that truth when we're standing in the thick of it, when the storm is raging, when the winds of life are howling. It can be hard to see beyond the struggle. We become focused on the pain, on the difficulty, and on the obstacles that are right in front of us. We forget sometimes that the fight we are in is not the end of the story. The struggle is not the final chapter. No, friends, there is an outcome to this battle, and it is an outcome that has already been determined. I want to remind you today that no matter how fierce the battle may be, the ultimate victory is already assured. When you place your trust in something greater than yourself, when you surrender the fight to a higher power, you can rest assured that the battle will not end in defeat. It will not end in hopelessness. It will not end in loss. The victory is certain, and that is the hope we hold on to in the middle of the struggle. Think about the story of the crucifixion and resurrection. For those who followed the teachings of a higher power, when Jesus was crucified, it seemed as though everything was lost. It seemed as though the battle was over and that the darkness had won. The disciples must have felt hopeless, standing at the foot of the cross, watching as the one they had followed, the one they had believed would bring deliverance, was taken from them in such a brutal way. But little did they know that the darkest moment of the battle was the very moment that victory was being won. 3 days later, when Jesus rose from the dead, the world was forever changed. The defeat that seemed so certain was actually the path to the ultimate victory. The resurrection was the proof that even when the situation seems most dire, even when it feels like the battle is lost, victory is still possible. Sometimes we have to go through the hardest, most painful moments to experience the true power of victory. And sometimes it is in the midst of our darkest battles that we will see the greatest triumphs. That same principle applies to your life, my friends. The battles you face today may seem overwhelming. The struggles may feel like they're never going to end. You may feel as though you're fighting a battle that you cannot win. But let me remind you, the outcome has already been determined. Victory is already secured for you. You might be asking, how can I be sure of that? How can I be confident that this battle will end in victory? The answer is simple, because the one who fights for you has never lost a battle. There is no power greater than the one who fights on your behalf. And when you place your trust in that power, you can know with certainty that the battle will end in triumph. The Apostle Paul, who faced more than his share of battles, knew this truth. He wrote to the believers in Rome, saying, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" What a powerful declaration. Paul was facing imprisonment, persecution, and hardship, yet he understood that the victory was not in his hands, but in the hands of the one who was fighting for him. Paul knew that when you are on the side of the one who has already won the ultimate victory, there is no force, no enemy, no circumstance that can stand in your way. This is the mindset we need to carry into our own battles. We don't fight for victory, we fight from victory. The ultimate outcome is not uncertain, it has already been decided. When we stand firm in that truth, we are able to face whatever comes our way with the confidence that we will overcome. The enemy may seem powerful in the moment, the challenges may seem insurmountable, but the truth is that we are fighting from a position of victory, not from defeat. Victory doesn't mean that the battle will be easy. It doesn't mean that there won't be moments of fear, discouragement, or pain, but it does mean that the battle is not the end of the story. And it does mean that no matter how difficult the road may be, the victory that we long for is already ours. Think about a runner in a race. The runner may grow tired, the road may seem long, and the finish line may appear far away, but the runner knows that the race has already been won. The outcome has been decided long before the race began. The runner's job is simply to keep running, to keep pressing forward, to keep moving toward the goal. The finish line is in sight, and no matter how challenging the race may be, the victory is assured. And so it is with our battles. We may grow weary along the way, but if we continue to trust in the power that is greater than ourselves, we know that the victory is already secured. There is one final truth that I want you to hold on to today. You are more than a conqueror. That's right. The victory is not just something that is in your future, it is a present reality. You are more than a conqueror, because the one who fights for you is greater than any enemy you face. The victory is yours not because of your own strength, but because of the strength of the one who has already won the battle on your behalf. So when you find yourself in the midst of a battle, whether it's a battle in your relationships, in your health, in your career, or in your spirit, remember this: you do not fight alone. The victory is already yours. The one who has never been defeated is fighting on your behalf, and he will bring you through. Stand firm in that truth and know that the outcome is already assured. The victory is not in the future, it is yours right now, today. Perseverance is not always easy. It is often the most challenging part of any battle. The excitement of the beginning can wear off, and the initial strength we had when the fight began can start to fade. We may grow weary, discouraged, and tempted to quit. But I want to remind you today that the battle is not won by those who give up when things get tough. The battle is won by those who refuse to give up, who continue to trust, continue to push forward, and continue to rely on the strength that comes from a higher power. Perseverance in the face of adversity is a powerful testimony of faith. Consider the example of the Apostle Paul. He endured more hardships than most of us could ever imagine: shipwrecks, imprisonments, beatings, rejection, and betrayal. Yet despite all of these trials, Paul never gave up. He never quit, and he never lost his faith. Paul wrote to the church in Galatia, saying, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Paul understood that perseverance is key to seeing the victory come to fruition. He knew that, though the journey might be difficult and the wait long, there was a promise of victory for those who continued to trust. This is not just a lesson from the past, it's a truth that applies to us today. We will all face struggles. We will all face moments when we feel like giving up. We will all face battles that seem to drag on forever, and the temptation to quit will be strong. But I want to encourage you today, friends, don't quit. Keep pressing on, keep moving forward, because though the struggle may seem long, the victory is guaranteed. There's an incredible strength that is forged in the fire of perseverance. It's easy to trust when everything is going well, when the sun is shining and life is smooth. But it's in the midst of the struggle, when things are difficult and we don't see the way forward, that true faith is tested. It's in those moments that we must remind ourselves of this truth. God is faithful, and He will not leave us or forsake us. And He will give us the strength to endure, no matter how long the battle may seem. I'm reminded of the story of Job in the Bible. Job endured unimaginable suffering. He lost his health, his wealth, and his family. His friends abandoned him, and his world seemed to fall apart. Yet, through all of his trials, Job never turned his back on his faith. He questioned, he mourned, and he struggled, but he never gave up. He continued to trust that even in his suffering, God had a plan, and that somehow there was something good that would come from his perseverance. And in the end, God restored Job, not just in the way that Job expected, but in a way that was far greater than he could have imagined. Job's perseverance became the foundation for his ultimate restoration. In the same way, the battles you face today, though they may feel overwhelming, are not the end of your story. Your perseverance will lead to a breakthrough, and that breakthrough will come at the perfect time. The Apostle James reminds us, "Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." James understood that it is through perseverance that our faith is refined, that we grow stronger, and that we become who we were always meant to be. Perseverance shapes our character. It transforms us from people who are easily shaken by challenges into people who can stand firm no matter what life throws our way. And that strength becomes not just a testimony of what we've been through, but a testimony of the faithfulness of the one who has carried us through. When we persevere, we become living proof that the battles we face do not define us. Our faith does. But let me be clear, friends. Perseverance is not about gritting your teeth and trying to get through the battle on your own. It's not about relying on your own strength and willpower. Perseverance, in the spiritual sense, is about relying on God's strength and trusting in His timing. It is about staying connected to Him even when things are hard and believing that He is working in ways that we cannot see. It is about recognizing that we are not in this fight alone and that our strength comes not from our own abilities, but from the one who is with us in the battle. In the book of Isaiah, we are reminded of the power that comes from trusting in God during our times of struggle. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and His understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. This is the promise of God's perseverance in us. He never grows tired, never gives up, and never leaves us alone in our struggles. When we persevere, we are tapping into His strength, not our own. Perseverance also means trusting in God's plan. Sometimes, when the battle is long, it's easy to wonder if things will ever change. We wonder if our prayers are being heard, if our efforts are making a difference, or if the battle will ever end. But trust in this. God's timing is perfect. Just because we don't see immediate results doesn't mean that God is not working. Often He is working behind the scenes, preparing the way for something greater than we could ever have imagined. Remember, friends, that victory comes not in moments of ease, but in moments of perseverance. The victories of the greatest warriors, the greatest leaders, and the greatest men and women of faith were not achieved in moments of comfort, but in moments of challenge. And it is the same for you. The battles you face today are not meaningless. They are part of a bigger story, a story that is leading you to a place of ultimate victory. So when the going gets tough, when you feel like giving up, when you wonder if you can keep going, don't give up. Stand firm. Persevere. Trust that the victory is already secured, and that through your perseverance you are becoming stronger, more faithful, and more equipped for the victories to come. Keep pressing on, for God is faithful, and He will bring you through to the other side. As we come to the close of this time together, I want to leave you with this final thought. The battles you are facing right now, whether they be internal struggles, external challenges, or overwhelming obstacles, are not the end of your story. They are simply a chapter, a moment in time, a test of your faith, your trust, and your perseverance. And though the road may be long and the victory may seem distant, I want to remind you today that the battle is not yours to fight alone. You have a strength within you, a power that is greater than anything you face. And if you will trust in that power, if you will surrender your battles, your struggles, and your fears to the one who is fighting on your behalf, you will find that the victory is already assured. Every challenge you face is an opportunity for growth, for faith to be refined, for strength to be built. The victory comes not when we avoid the struggle, but when we stand firm in the midst of it, knowing that we are not alone. God fights for you, and even when you don't see the outcome in the moment, rest assured that the victory has already been won. The battle is already over, and you are victorious. So, stand firm, keep pressing forward, do not grow weary. When you face trials, remember that you are more than a conqueror. Know that every battle is part of a greater plan, a plan that will lead to something far greater than you could ever imagine. Trust in the strength of the one who has already won the victory for you. And when you feel tired, remember that you don't have to fight alone. because the one who holds the universe in his hands is fighting with you and for you. As you leave here today, take this truth with you. The victory is already secured. The battle has been won, and you are not alone. Keep trusting, keep enduring, and know that your breakthrough is just ahead.